Welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving straight into how to build quiet wealth and finally plug up that leaking bucket of our personal finances. We're going to explore a century-old Japanese technique that completely transforms how you view your money and honestly, your life. So, if you've ever felt like your bank account is draining way faster than you can fill it, you are in exactly the right place. Let's get into it. Picture this. Imagine two guys standing out in a heavy rainstorm. The first guy is holding this massive bucket, but the bottom is just riddled with 100 holes. The rain pours in, which represents a huge income, but it's pouring out just as fast. By the time the storm passes, he's exhausted, he's stressed, and he's totally broke. Now look at the second guy. He's holding a small cup, but his cup is solid steel, 0 holes. The rain is just a drizzle for him, representing a much lower salary, but he catches absolutely every single drop. Once his cup is full, he pours it into a barrel, and then another. At the end of the storm, the guy with a massive leaking bucket is begging for water, while the guy with a small steel cup is incredibly wealthy. This is the financial reality of our modern world. We get so obsessed with increasing our income, but earning more money when you have bad habits, that's just speeding up the flow of waste. All right, let's take a really quick look at our roadmap for today. We'll be covering the invisible money trap, the art of Kakeibo, the 4 spending buckets, reintroducing financial friction, the mindset of maintenance, and finally, wealth is a ratio.
Section 1. The invisible money trap.
Have you ever wondered why it's so easy to just blow your budget nowadays? It's because money has become almost completely invisible. Corporations have spent billions of dollars to create what's called frictionless spending. You tap your card, you use Apple Pay, you hit that Buy Now button on Amazon. You never actually see the cash leave your hands. And that completely removes a well-documented psychological phenomenon known as the pain of paying. When you physically hand over cash, your brain registers a tiny bit of pain. But in our digital world, that pain is totally numbed. You don't feel the loss until the end of the month when you finally look at your credit card statement, and by then, well, the damage is already done. The entire system is literally designed to make you spend without thinking.
Moving on to Section 2. The art of Kakeibo.
To fix this, we're looking at a method invented way back in 1904 by Japan's first female journalist, Hani Motoko. It's called Kakeibo, which translates to the household financial ledger. It's not some fancy app, it's not a complicated spreadsheet. And what I absolutely love about this is how it completely flips the traditional math of personal finance. Most people do this entirely backward. They take their income, minus their spending, and whatever is miraculously left over becomes their savings. And let's be honest, that number is usually 0. But look at the Kakeibo equation. Income minus savings equals spending. You pay yourself first. If you make $3,000 and you want to save $500, you remove that $500 right off the top. You now have to survive on $2,500. This brilliant little flip creates artificial scarcity. When you have less money just sitting there available to you, you get creative, you stop wasting, and you naturally prioritize your must-haves. Your bank balance is a lie because it includes next week's rent. Your budget is the truth.
Section 3. The 4 spending buckets.
Kakeibo simplifies things by dropping every single expense you have into one of 4 buckets. Number 1 is survival. This is your rent, your basic groceries, utilities, medicine. You obviously can't cut these to 0, but you can optimize them. Number 2 is optional. Dining out, grabbing drinks, shopping, all those subscriptions. This is the leak. This is where the battle for your wealth is truly won or lost. Number 3 is super fascinating to me, culture. Books, museums, online courses. Kakeibo actively encourages this bucket because spending money to grow your mind is viewed as an investment, not a waste. And finally, number 4 is extra. Those fun, unexpected car repairs or last-minute birthday gifts you didn't plan for.
Section 4. Reintroducing financial friction.
Think about it. Most people wait until the end of the month to check their finances, right? That is basically like performing an autopsy on a dead patient. Kakeibo demands you keep the patient alive, and you do it using a physical notebook and a pen. It forces you to write down every single expense by hand, usually in the evening while your memory is still fresh. When you have to physically write down latte, $6.50 on a piece of paper, your brain processes that transaction completely differently. You actually stop and think, wait, was this latte really worth the effort of writing it down? Is it worth the ink? You feel the sting of the transaction again. Suddenly, that invisible digital money becomes highly visible. You realize you aren't just spending numbers on a screen. You're trading away your life energy. It turns your finances from a mindless reflex into a really mindful daily practice. And this is exactly how we handle that tricky optional bucket we just talked about, the envelope method. At the start of the month, you withdraw the exact amount of cash budgeted for your fun and shopping and you put it in a physical envelope. When you go out, you only spend from that envelope. And when it's empty, the fun is over. No overdrafts, no whipping out the credit card. It creates this absolute physical limit that teaches some serious self-regulation. If you blow your entire fun budget in week 1, well, you're going to spend the next 3 weeks sitting at home learning a pretty painful lesson so you can pace yourself better next month. It is tough love for sure, but it works. We live in an era of instant gratification. You see it, you click it, and it's sitting on your porch tomorrow. That cycle completely destroys wealth. So to kill that dopamine shopping loop, Kakeibo introduces a simple rule, a 30-day cooling off period. When you see something you want that isn't a strict survival need, you do not buy it. Instead, you write it down on a wish list and you wait 30 days. And you know what happens? When you look at that list a month later, 90% of the time, the urge to buy it is just gone. You realize you were just bored or maybe sad or even just hungry. By forcing that delay, you make yourself deal with your feelings directly instead of just self-medicating with a new gadget. Section 5. The mindset of maintenance.
So why do we buy so much stuff in the first place? It's because we treat things as totally disposable. But there's this beautiful Japanese concept called monotsukuri, which implies a deep, deep respect for materials and craftsmanship. Before you buy a new pair of shoes, you polish your old ones. Before you upgrade to the newest phone, you clean your current one and delete all the junk files. Caring for your possessions extends their life and completely reduces your desire for shiny new things. Look, the modern consumer economy desperately needs you to be dissatisfied with what you already have. Embracing monotsukuri, choosing to repair a slightly torn shirt instead of tossing it, is literally an act of rebellion against consumerism. It makes you the master of your material world instead of just being a slave to the mall.
Then, at the end of the month, you sit down and do what's called hansei, which means reflection. You look at your actual spending versus your budget. But here is the crucial part. You do this without any guilt. You're acting like an objective scientist studying your own behavior. Why did you drop $200 on takeout last week? Were you stressed out at work? Okay, boom, you just identified a trigger. Next month, when you get stressed, you know you need to find a free alternative, maybe going for a walk, instead of ordering expensive food. This kind of reflection creates a feedback loop of continuous improvement, which is known as Kaizen. You just get a little smarter, and your budget gets a little tighter every single month until you've effortlessly stopped the bleeding. Which brings us to our final point, Section 6. Wealth is a ratio. Remember our 2 guys in the rainstorm from the very beginning? Wealth is simply the gap between what you make and what you spend. You can't always control your income. I mean, raises are pretty hard to come by, but you can absolutely control your spending today. Think about it like this. Every single dollar you save is not you losing your spending power, it's you hiring a tiny little employee. That employee goes out, it invests, it grows, and eventually it buys you a day of freedom where you don't even have to work. You are quite literally buying back your own time. Ultimately, Kakeibo acts as a mirror for your soul. Your life is a ledger with limited time and limited resources. How are you spending them? If you tell yourself that spending time with your family is your absolute highest priority, but your ledger shows you spent $0 on family activities this month and $500 on golf, well, the ledger proves your true priorities, doesn't it? Your spending is a mirror that reflects exactly what you truly value. To wrap this explainer up, I want to leave you with a challenge. Before you try the 7-day Kakeibo challenge, where you physically write down every single cent you spend for a week just to see how much money you might be setting on fire, I want you to confess down in the comments below. What is your ultimate guilty pleasure expense? Is it that daily Starbucks run? Taking an Uber when you easily could have walked? Those sneaky in-app purchases on your phone? Leave a comment, become fully aware of that leak, and then make a vow to yourself today. I master my money, it does not master me. So are you ready to see what your ledger reveals about you? Thanks so much for hanging out with me on this explainer, and I'll see you